Hey, welcome to the Uncommon Life podcast, the show where Lewis, Rich and myself delve into topics that are helping us build towards being in the best shape and health of our lives. It's fair to say that we're quite far into that journey. That said, we're changing our minds on various topics as we learn more about ourselves, and there's also some things that we each find uniquely challenging. Our hope is that you can relate to some of our journeys and challenges, and that you find it inspiring and useful as you build towards being in the best shape and health of your life. Okay, episode 13. Now, we don't have Rich this week, but we do have a special guest appearance. Barry is a very good friend of mine and also happens to be Lewis's cousin. So, we all know each other pretty well, and it was great for the three of us to catch up and do this episode together. Barry has been figuring out his relationship with alcohol for a while now, and it ultimately led him to giving up alcohol, a journey he's 6 months into. I've gone through a very similar journey, leading me to being nearly 2.5 years sober now. And Lewis, whilst he doesn't abstain from alcohol, he does have his own way of being able to keep it in check. So in this episode, we each share our journey with alcohol and why we've landed where we have. All right, enjoy the conversation. Thought you were going to bring a beer out there.
Actually, do you know what? Funny you said that. Just as you said it, I'm like, oh, look what I've got on my desk. So
what is that?
This is called Sentia. It's GABA spirit. It's a no alcohol spirit, and it's basically it has a lot of ashwagandha and all these kind of active ingredients that act like alcohol for in terms of relaxing and calming type effect. Randomly, just had it at my desk. So as you said, that let's shift to it. Sentia.
It's not a paid promotion. That one.
Not a paid promotion. It tastes like you're drinking alcohol. It's got like ginger and cardamom and all these sorts of stuff that's like hits you in the throat, and you kind of feel like you're drinking something like a shot of alcohol. I'm not sure what the point in the taste being harsh is, but you feel like you're drinking something good. And
that little burn in the back of the throat.
Yeah,
because I've had some of these non-alcohol ones, and they taste so bad. There was like a gin, non-alcohol gin that we got, and it just tasted flowery, and I was like that.
Yeah, you see the ingredients though. It's not. It's totally artificial, right?
It was bad. And it cost the same amount it cost actually more than it would have done for a proper bottle of gin. And I was like, well, that was a waste of
Yeah, the profit in those things must be insane. They're literally like flavoured water, really. And you're right, they're selling for the same like price as like a bottle of gin or a bottle of vodka or whatever.
I'm actually interested, Louis, I'd like to hear about your relationship with alcohol, because we don't. Obviously, you're in Australia. We're cousins, as people may or may not know. So I don't know I know that since you've moved there, your lifestyle's changed. It's a lot more outdoors, a lot more fitness, a lot less social because you don't know as many people. So you're probably drinking less than you were here. But what's it look like?
So for me, it's good start. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, I'll go. I'd probably say it's the best it's ever been. And I think I'll wait to kick it off as well, though. So part of so Barry's my cousin, and we used to go out and get absolutely battered when we were younger. And to the point where I'll sit down now and I'll look back up until my late 20s and even early 30s, would still go out and get absolutely hammered on a weekend. And I'm like embarrassed by it now. I look back and I think there was some evenings that were so bad that could have just it's actually amazing that I'm still probably alive, in all honesty, with how drunk I was on certain occasions. Because so I'd go out drinking with Barry. Barry's a big dude. So are you like 6'1", Barry? 100 kilos?
6'2".
6'2". 100 kilos, all your mates, everyone else, they're all big guys. I've mentioned I'm 5'7", 70 kilos, and I try keeping up with you guys, and I would always end up being the most drunk. Like I'd always be the one that would be absolutely like being lost, like somewhere, being held for ransom by cab drivers, like spending the night in jail for drunk and disorderly.
We did negotiate a release from you being kidnapped by a cab driver.
Just bad, like really bad. And then but then everything, like, so now my relationship with alcohol is really good in the sense of I never drink to excess ever. And if anything, I will never have more than. So I'm trying to think. So Amelia and I, we went out for our 10-year wedding anniversary, and we went into town, spent the night in town, didn't have the kids. And I think I had 5 drinks, which is the most I've drunk in ages. Like the most I'll normally have is like 2 glasses of wine, and that'd be it. And that maybe 2 at a push, maybe 3 nights a week. But it wouldn't be 2. It would be a glass here, a few days off, maybe a glass of wine here. So it's very much just at the end of the evening, I will sit down and say, I'm going to have a glass of wine, and it's just a little downtime, half an hour, bit of chill, and that's it. And I don't have any more, and then I don't do that for another 3 days or so.
So like kind of a handful of drinks across 2 or 3 nights a week?
Yeah, so even this week, so if I say last week, so I didn't drink all week up until Saturday. I had a barbecue, friends come over, swam in the pool, I had 1 beer, didn't drink on Sunday, didn't drink Monday, didn't drink Tuesday. Yesterday evening I had a glass of wine after I put the kids to bed. And it's just that, the odd glass or beer here or there, and that's it. So, and also to share with that, so I had a Christmas party. So it was a work event, Christmas party, free drinks, free food all night, and I'm off at the moment on paternity leave, and it was in town. And instead of getting the train into town, and it was like in the casino, I drove in. I had 2 beers from like 6 p.m. till 11 p.m. Then I drove home. And normally, or me 5 years ago, I would have gotten the train in. I would have been making the most of all the drinks with everyone there, getting hammered, and then getting a cab home. And would have spent a shitload of money and felt really rough the next day. Whereas this time I was like, I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm just going to drive and then feel better the next day. So that's where I'm at now. So I'll probably drink, to summarize it, probably drink twice a week and have at most 2 glasses of wine in any evening.
So this is a great segue into, I reckon me and Barry would just love to be where you're at with alcohol. Like that has been my goal for that was my goal for probably about 5 years. And right. I just could never get anywhere close to it. I don't know if that resonates with you, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the whole thinking you can moderate, wanting to moderate, getting to a point where you'll abstain, and then I'm not drunk for a month, 2 months. I'm now going to ease back in, and I'll just moderate. When I go out and have a drink. Not that you're drinking every night, but when you do, have a couple, have 2, have 3. But the nature of it for me is that always once I start, I want to finish. I want to go all the way until, drink until the drinking's done. Basically, there was never a moderation. And even me and Daniel, we'd meet up for a meal, and it would just always end up messy. We'd just go for a quiet meal, and then, we're like 7, 8 drinks in, and hilarity ensues, but always regretting it after.
I don't know why, like that line, why I can't hold that line. And for me, it's not even like my relationship with alcohol is I've slowly kind of like degraded to the point where obviously I don't drink anymore. But like it used to be super messy binge drinking in my 20s, and then it would be like the occasional binge drink, but like in stag do's and stuff like that, but much more infrequently. And then I cut back from that. But even when I cut back from that, not like 7 or 8 drinks and going out with a friend for dinner and drinking more than you expected, but even just like I'm at home and I would open a bottle of wine. I'm like, that bottle of wine is going to last the weekend, and you open it on Friday, but that bottle of wine goes by 10 p.m. And it's just I would tell myself I will not have 3 to 4 glasses tonight. I will just have 1, maybe 2 if I feel like it. But the reality is that after 1, you make a different set of decisions, and after 2, you make a different set of decisions, and then I just couldn't control it. And it's not like I'm an out of control alcoholic or anything, but I just couldn't control that line. Like I tried 100 times, and I just couldn't do it.
I think that's
it's weird. It's weird how you seem to be able to do it, Lewis. That's one of the notes I made before this meeting. Actually, is that like where you end up with alcohol. I think a lot does depend on that. Whether you can kind of find a place that you don't actually have to think about. It was actually like the trauma mentally of keep trying to hold the line, keep trying to design all of these rules for myself and continually breaking them, was just like causing me like just a lot of stress.
Yeah, I think the number of iterations that you come up with, Daniel, and that I was watching over the years, it was like secret formulas. I'm going to have this, one on, one off, a water, a chaser, stop at this
I would
time.
buy those little bottles, right? Like buy just 1 glass bottles from the shop, because it was the only way. But then sometimes I would go and get another 1 bottle. It's just like I'd find ways to break my rules all the time.
What's your progression, Lou? What was that the driver? So you've got there from a different probably way to me, Daniel. So what's your motivator?
I'm quite lucky in the sense where, so I think moving to Australia made a big difference. So moving here, away from, there seems to be a different culture in London and England compared to here with the drinking. Or maybe that's just how I've seen it, because I haven't been out and about as much because I've got 3 kids now. But it seems more of a culture in England to go out and get hammered. It's just so ingrained in culture. Like every weekend we're just going to go out, we're going to get smashed. It's like, just seems like it's, and moving over here, that it doesn't have the same feel. So I think that was one that it meant I broke away from that, in the sense of the social group going out and that being the, let's go out and let's just drink to like ridiculousness. But then also having 3 kids, like honestly, waking up hungover with kids is the worst thing in the world. And I just made a decision that I was like, for me, I don't want to be that dad that's shit on a Saturday morning or all day Saturday laying in bed because I had too many drinks on a Friday. And that was it. It wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't I'm going to try and do this or I'm going to try and do that. It was just, I'd been hungover on a couple of occasions with a couple of the kids, and I was just like, it isn't fair to them. I feel wrecked, and it was just, it's just not worth it. And then it was also, I enjoy my working out. And it's, if I have too many drinks, then I don't work out in the morning, and then I'm annoyed with myself in the afternoon because I'm hungover, and I'd rather wake up in the morning and do a gym. So it's all these kind of little things that I think just stacked in my favor of. One, I don't want to be that dad that can't hang out with the kids for the weekend because I'm hungover. And 2, I prefer to work out. So, and I was away from England and a whole other
bad influences.
Yeah, just that could kind of lure me in. So I'll be honest, it's been an evolution. So it's been over the last 3 years that it's got better, and where I'm at now. So, but I haven't yet. I don't have that social group to go out and get
Christmas Day back in London with Mikey D, your brother.
Yeah.
Is that going to be an all day session like it used to be?
It probably will. So that's the thing. So I will enjoy it if I'm there with the family. So when I was home last Christmas, because we had the Christmas before, I was wrecked on Christmas Day because I was sat there with my folks. We woke up in the morning, and it's just like we wake up, we have a glass of wine in the morning, we have a champagne, we ease into it. And I think I let myself do it when I'm at home with the family because I know others are there to help out with the kids. So for me, it was I've got Xander and Apollo when we were there.
Yeah.
If I'm a little hungover the next day, it's not as bad because Nana and Booba were there and they'll help out. And my sisters are. So it's not the same. I don't have as much of the sole responsibility, or me and Amelia, of we have to, it's like there's other people to help out. So, and it's just kind of like part of the fun. I probably won't get as drunk as I have done, but when I come home next Christmas, or if I'm home in June, I'll sit there and I'll enjoy a bottle of wine with the folks and some cheese because it's what we like doing. And it's but that's a rarity, and it's when I'm home with the family kind of thing. But it wouldn't be a weekly thing.
It's an interesting one. It is a situational thing a lot, right? So you know, as much as you've the factors you've outlined with the family, and we're not wanting to fall over. If you were in a different circle, there would be different forces pulling you, and it could be different still.
Yeah. Although, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how I go. Well, I'm really keen to hear about your journey now in terms of where you're at now. So you're sober for how long?
Me, 6. I just hit my 6 months actually, so it's just coincided nicely.
Nice.
That's not one drink.
Not a taste. I had one point after 2 months where I thought, you know what, I got this now. Like that little split second of I'm going to just order this like nice beer that I like with a bit of salt and lemon. It's a nice lemon drink. Let me just have one, mate. And I ordered it, and I was
Did you
already
actually order it? Wow.
ordered it. I didn't tell you about that, did I, Coach?
No. No.
I ordered it, and they came back and said they didn't have any. And as at that stage, I was sat with some friends who had been giving me the whole, "Oh, just have a drink. Like, what's it? You know, you don't drink that much. Just have a drink." You know, I was affecting their fun in their mind, so they, you know, put that pressure to drink. And they came back and said, "Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have the drink." And I was like, "Thank you, Jesus." I nearly just walked into it. And once you get that 0 days, you're like, "Yeah, well, what's another drink another time?" And so that was the only time I nearly wobbled, and it was just like that split second. Oh, let me fancy it. Bit of peer pressure. What's the harm in one? But yeah, 6 months. I've had a few interestingly nightmares, like where you dream about it.
That you're having a drink.
Yeah, that I'm drinking, like that I'm hungover, or that, you know, you drink that you've got your zero. And it's a funny one because Daniel, when he started, how many days are you now?
I don't know, like 2.5 years, something like that.
2.5 years. So obviously I was following his journey before, and he was having similar kind of dreams up for maybe even a couple of years or something, right? It was quite a long...
I've had at least over 10 dreams where I dreamt that I've broken things and gone back to zero again.
And he's in a couple of interesting conversations where Daniel's been like, "Do you know what? Oh man, I've got it now. Like I might just have one wine. Nice, I fancy a nice red with a maybe I don't know how many months ago, maybe 6 months, as long as that or something. Just with a steak. And actually, he even said it just after I'd started. So obviously, I was like, yeah, go on, do it. Then you're going to have your O, and I'm going to have more days than you. So I made it competitive.
Love it.
Go back to zero.
The competitive streak. So talk me through your journey then. So what made you think I need to just axe this all together? What situation were you in before? Like, how's the journey been? Like, let's kind of dive into it.
So yeah, it was. I mean, you kind of know. We grew up. I grew up with a lot of Irish boys, and there was that culture of drinking. At first, I found it really strange. It would, be drinking before they went out to get, being drunk before you go out. That being the whole purpose of going out. The going on lads trips and starting at the airport. That whole thing. I was actually initially not into it. I didn't. I thought it was all just a bit stupid. And then fast forward 4 or 5 years later, and I'm the first one there at the bar, and I'm the last one there, and I'm basically the life of the party, the champion of drinking. And when we were when we'd be organising to meet up with friends, I wouldn't be looking forward to seeing them. I'd be thinking, yeah, it's going to be a good piss up. Like, it's not like, let me catch up with these guys. So that was in the younger years, and then you get older, you get into work, and it kind of changes a bit. It becomes like a work thing, a networking type thing, social. A lot of the business stuff is underpinned by that, so it becomes very cultural and just normalized. After work drinks. Then I started, obviously had kids, started working from home, so that was happening a bit less. Then I found that my relationship with alcohol shifted from a social or a celebratory type thing to I've had a tough day, or I've had a tough week. Let me take the edge off type thing. So that was it. Basically, it got into that pattern of using it for stress relief, and then not occasionally, probably once a week, having like a 6-7 pointer, once or twice a month at least. And then when you've got kids, it's that same thing. You're feeling hungover, you're not feeling your best, you're regretting it, you're not as resilient. So yeah, the other interesting thing was watching Daniel. Initially, I was just very like, what's he doing? You don't need to do that. It's a bit extreme. Just moderate it. And I think the other thing was I was always quite resilient to it. So I'd wake up and not have the bad hangovers really. So I always just push through. So I wasn't feeling like it was having such a big impact on my life. But then seeing Daniel start, and then that positivity, and then something just clicked in my head of, I can't actually moderate this. it's always all or nothing for me. I don't need to drink every day, but when I do, I'm going to hammer it, and I'm going to drink until my mind is quiet and until I'm relaxed and I'm chilled. So it wasn't. It just it became an unhealthy relationship. It wasn't a positive one.
Can you remember a clear moment where it clicked, or can you even remember like the last time you drank, and do you think that had an impact on a decision?
I think, and we were talking in the morning, and I think I was hungover at the time as well. Like we were literally talking, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm done." I don't know if you remember. It was literally like the 12th of June or something. I was like, "I'm done, man." And you're like, "Really? Yeah. Are you sure?" Because before I'd always been like, "It's fine. I'm cool. You know, I can go without it." So you don't, the old, you don't need to have a drinking problem for a drink to be a problem. I mean, I was probably borderline. Some people would say, "Oh, you've got what's up? You've got no issues. You're fine." I was a very high functioning drinker. Wouldn't really show around the edges. But yeah, that point, I was like, "That's it." I'm like, do you know what? I was trying to think about, I think, what I was going to lose and what I was going to lose from it. And one of the main things I worried about was friendships, like relationships that were around that. And when Daniel first actually said he was going to quit alcohol, I remember thinking, I was actually worried like our friendship wouldn't last. Like, but we meet up and that's what we do, and we have that. Is there anything else there more? So that was kind of the main one that I thought I'd lose, like relationships, friendships, and they wouldn't be as good. So when I saw that with Daniel, it actually was better without. We had actually, we were doing more interesting stuff, more rewarding, more meaningful when we were meeting up. I was like, actually, well, the thing that I was worried about isn't actually a thing. And that was it. I was like, boom, switched.
Has that been a thing with some people though? Because I can imagine it is, because I know some people that I'd be like, well, when I meet up with it, it's just to drink.
Yeah.
And I'd say other than that, it's like, we don't really have much else to...
It's a good thing because you find, I'm finding like I'm not hanging around with so many people and the circle gets smaller because some people, all you have in common is going to watch the football and having a drink,
Yeah.
There's nothing else there. And the other interesting thing is I'm still going out and socializing and going for the meals and stuff. But I find like, after a few hours, 3 hours or 2-3 hours, I've really enjoyed it and I've had my time and I'm done and I'm ready to go. And, whereas I didn't have that switch before, it would just be, it's going to go until everyone's gone home. So you enjoy things differently and you tend to, definitely relationships change and you definitely lose certain people, but then you realize, well, they were not really, people that you should have been hanging around with. If you've got nothing to say to someone other than when you're drunk, then.
I think that's the really hard piece though. I think that's really hard for a lot of people. And I'll say probably guys more so, because we have more relationships that are around drinking and like watching a sport of some sort. Yeah. And it's having that loss of relationship that it's kind of like, well, where are my mates going to be then? That must be really hard. And it's I might have to start a new group of friends then, or who am I going to hang out with? So I can imagine that is really, really quite difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, it still is. I think it still is difficult for people now. Like people that I'm around find it difficult. They still feel uncomfortable. It's like a reflection on them if I'm not drinking, or they feel awkward, or they, makes them maybe feel bad about their drinking, or they feel like I'm not going to be as fun or not on the same level. So, I mean, me, it's not a social lubricant for me. I'm pretty extroverted
anyway. Yeah.
I'm Barry. So it's
less angry when you're not drinking. Just less angry.
That's the other thing as well. I skipped over the crazy Barry, which it's embarrassing to think back. And I had that in my not even younger years, up to my 30s. When I was drinking, I was a nightmare. I was looking for trouble, and often it was. People didn't, at one point, I definitely remember people just not really wanting to invite me out because there was going to be some kind of drama. There's going to be some trouble, right? So crazy.
Never really eventualized though, did it? There was never really anything that came of it that I know. Did there? Wasn't many scuffles were there? Or were there? I don't know. Okay. Might have been after my time then, after I left. Maybe a couple before. So I guess, did you find a similar thing then, Daniel? For you, was it a similar journey? I know you kind of mentioned it in terms of like the social
Weirdly,
group and friends, or
I think I'm really different to Barry in terms of how I drank and like what
uh,
it meant to me. I think we both went through. I think we're both very similar in terms of we can't control the line, and it's just inevitable that a line gets broken pretty easily. So like, I just don't think we can control it. So for us, it has to be you either just put up with it and you stop trying to control it, and just you let that be part of your life, or you decide you have to get rid of it entirely. But Barry's way more social than me. So like that whole kind of like, how does it affect being out and around and social loop? Like I wasn't drinking like that hardly ever. Like my drinking was just kind of, you know, I would try and just kind of have like, I was probably drinking a couple of bottles of wine a week, mostly condensed over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And now and again, it would slip into kind of like a Sunday and a Tuesday, and then there might be three, but probably more still like two over those. But I think for me, it was actually more of probably a mental health thing than anything else, because like, I know we joke about sleep and stuff like that, but I think that the one thing I've realized through alcohol, and I've realized for me, is I am so sensitive to getting poor sleep. And when I get poor sleep, I get anxious. I get my confidence kind of goes. I get kind of paranoid. Like it just puts me like on edge, and I just I change quite a lot. And I think the one thing I realized is that I said I had this kind of like binge drinking in my 20s, and then when I got into my 30s, it was more kind of like just infrequent binge drinking, and then it went to kind of just drinking 2 or 3 bottles of wine a week at home, spaced out, not too crazy. But then even that was like, I was noticing like big effects from that. And literally every Monday I was kind of like a little anxious to go into the management meetings, which I was expected to be organized and lead. And I'm like, I feel anxious going into them. And I was so glad when they were over. And I'm like, man, this is just like, I shouldn't be feeling like that. And then there would be some weekends where I wouldn't drink, and I'm like, I just felt completely different. So it was really that drove me to stop the drinking, because I'm like, I just can't, I'm not going out partying or anything like that, but I just can't deal with even 1 or 2 bottles of wine spaced out appropriately throughout the week anymore. Like it had such an impact on how I felt Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like literally the first half of my week was kind of full of anxiety and a lack of confidence. And then I might slightly wake up towards the end of the week and feel a bit better. But by then it's Thursday or Friday and I'm starting to drink a bit more wine again. And it's like, geez, this is just like, it felt like the handbrake was properly on. And then when I got rid of it, I realized, I just like, I was literally, it was like night and day. I was going into my meetings on a Monday and Tuesday, just feeling like just put together, more confident, and stuff like, training and eating right and all of these things. Like, I think I realized that it was the alcohol that's disrupting sleep. And then once I felt like that and I didn't have the sleep, I just much less likely to work out and eat right and all of these other things. So for me, it was more around kind of that stuff. Like I needed that to go away. And the only way that it would go away is if I got alcohol out of my life. And then once I did, I just felt just a ton better. And there was no way I was going back. So yeah, it was more like that. Yeah.
That's an interesting one with the I remember I remember noticing the difference between like you and certain of my friends. The next day and the next couple of days, how low you would be and how low you'd feel. And I think there's some people that it really does. It drops everybody's mood on a hangover, but it'd be for 2 or 3 days after. And even now, I didn't used to get that, but I definitely feel like my moods are totally so much more leveled off. I'm not getting the highs of stress that I used to. I'm not getting the lows. I'm just a lot more level. So it was kind of like a roller coaster. You get stressed and you have a drink to take the edge off, but then you hit a lower low the next day. You fight your way back, and then you get having a drink again at the end of the week, and it's like basically it was just a cycle, yeah.
And age as well has a ton to do with it, I think, because like it's not a coincidence that in your 20s you can just go out and get drunk all the time and do stupid stuff, and it's like you can sort of deal with it. Like I would come in really hungover, still in like a management role, but I'd be able to power through it and feel okay, and I wouldn't get that anxiety and lack of confidence. Like I'd still be able to power through. And then in my 30s, I think cutting back on that helped, but it just started to slide back again where it got worse. And then I'm then at the point where I have 2 glasses of wine on a Friday night, and then on Saturday morning I feel like shit, and it's just 2 glasses of wine. Like, it shouldn't make me feel like shit the next day. But again, with the Whoop was a good reminder of how that is. Like 100% of the time, if you have 2 glasses of wine, you wake up with a red recovery score. And then you look at your sleep, and your deep sleep and your REM sleep is really low. And it's like Whoop doesn't actually know I drunk. Like, so the connection was really clear. Even just 1 or 2 glasses of wine was like disrupting a number of stuff in my life, which is just like, the trade-off was just like so not worth it.
The age makes such a difference. It's so true. Those, like, I get like 2 glasses of wine being hungover. You kind of say that out loud now because we're like, you're like, what's wrong? If you're in your 20s, you'll be like, what's wrong with them? Like 2 glasses of wine, they'll be hungover. And it just like, all of a sudden you turn 38, 39, and it's like, boom.
Yeah.
2 glasses of wine and I'm wrecked. Like the next day you got that. Yeah, it's so true.
The Whoop's an interesting one. So I think that's another thing that probably helped me to sort of see the light. And so not with the sleep score. I mean, I had a Fitbit and I could always see that I was having a bad sleep after, I'd had some drinks, but getting my bloods. So that was another thing Daniel got me into doing, was, testing bloods, and doing them and seeing like a really bad ALT, liver function score, and getting scans and then seeing a fatty liver, and kind of reading about, getting to the age of 40 and your cell recovery and repair and renewal starts to decrease. So you're not as resilient. It's pretty much the age related thing. So seeing that score, and thinking, shit, I'm doing tangible damage here, and there's some point where I'm not going to be able to rebound from it. So I need to do this now while I'm still, relatively young. So yeah, that was. I'm going to get myself tested with Heal Labs in Elstree, run by Clayton Bean. So yeah, if you're in the area, I highly recommend them.
I'd love to hear what's happened on the back of that. Actually, 6 months later.
Yeah, I'm super curious because it was an interesting one, because I started my fitness type journey 2 years ago, and I was losing weight and fat, but then even 6 months ago, my liver score had come from unacceptable down to just top end of the range. Actually, it was still probably borderline. So that was basically improving my eating, but still drinking. And you look at the amount of sugar and calories in a session of 7 or 8 pints. It's like it's an extra meal, and the strain. So yeah, so that'll be interesting. That was the thing I realised. You're not going to be able to just exercise your way out of drinking too much. It's going to
that'll cause some serious.
It's going to show up.
Yeah. I think it's just so unique for every person. Like, and everybody has their own reasons, and like they have to reach their own decision with it. Like, the other thing that I find kind of weird about it as well is like how random the decision to quit is. Like, Barry, you said you just kind of decided, like, no, that's enough. And like I remember, like, really specifically when I had my last drink, and it was like just it was with a load of parents from Fern School, and we just went round there, and I think I drank 2 bottles of wine round there, which is just like unnecessary. Now, like, I wasn't falling around, like, or anything like that, but I just remember feeling like absolute shit the next day, and just thinking, what a classic display of not being able to hold the line. Like, I did not want to or mean to drink 2 bottles of wine, and it was like completely unnecessary to drink 2 bottles of wine. And now I feel like shit for 4 days, and then I've done that like 50 times probably over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years. But there was just I don't know if it was something about that event, or whether there was. I think there's something to also your subconscious needs to line up with your conscious at some point, and it clicks. Because it's all of these people, like, whether they give up smoking or drinking or whatever, and it's like it just has to happen in its own time sometimes.
I think that's
it clicked, and I'm like,
it's the subconscious and the conscious. I mean, we just went to Cyprus. Daniel was there with our other cousin Christopher, and it was an interesting one because we'd done that trip a few years before, and there was like, it was just debauchery. But this time there was like, what was there, 5, 6 of us, and 6 people, and only 2 were drinking. 1 moderately, and then 1 Chris Plummer. Hi, Chris. Chris
Was it Chris that was getting on
He
it?
wasn't that bad. He didn't
Chris,
drink that much.
number one fan of the show. No, but I mean, so yeah, just going to that, and I'm not picking on him, right? I love the guy, and I see his struggle, Louis, and you see his struggle on our WhatsApp group, right? In that he very much wants to live a healthier life, but he feels like he will miss out so much on by quitting alcohol. He feels like there's going to be such an amount of fun that he's missing out on in his life that it's not even, he can't fathom it. But the trip to Cyprus, we were just sat having meals and playing pool and walking on the strip, and I was just sort of thinking, well, how would alcohol have enhanced this for me? It couldn't have. It would actually. There's no way that it could have made it any better. It would have made it worse. But I think it's very hard to get that point where you don't feel like what you're giving up is greater than what you're getting from it. And that's the
How long did that take you from when you gave up, Barry? Like, because you're right. I think there's a tipping point where you're like, it's so abundantly clear to me now. Like, this is the way forward. Like, how early on did that?
It was. Yeah. I mean, it was probably like after about a month and a half, really. So it was kind of you said to me,
that's just really quick. That's super quick. Yeah, it was way longer for me.
Yeah, I'd been watching you obviously and talking to you, so kind of a lot of the pieces were there, but. It was also that you said, I couldn't fathom it, but you said to me, look, you've done a month, you do January every year, just do your month, and at the end of it, let's catch up. And then it was like, okay, well, where are you at? Like, dude, you can go another 2 weeks, can't you? Like, yeah. And that was it. It kind of snowballed. But it was interesting because the shift went from, I was balancing up, look, I'm going to give up this, but I'm getting this. And then by the time it was like maybe 2 months in, I was like, I've given up nothing. I've actually just cut things that were not good for me. So everything is positive. It's positive across the board. There was no like this versus this. It was just like this is it now. So that was it for me.
I love how your mind has repositioned it for you, though. In that where you've not given anything up, and it's all just gains.
Yeah,
that's great. The way that you're in your mind, it's all positive. There's nothing like I'm not missing out on anything. And I think probably people need to get to that realization of it. Yeah,
but I think one of the reason people find it hard to give up though is because that usually happens over a much longer time. So you're tempted to slip back to it because it's not powerful enough. Like Barry feeling like that a month or two in, I don't think is that normal. Like it took me, I would say that even at the end of the first year, I still wasn't sure whether I was going to keep being sober. I still had in my head that it was probably a pretty good plan now that I've changed my relationship with alcohol and I can now go back to having my 1 or 2 drinks because I'm just in a better place. And it wasn't, and I know that like giving up the alcohol led me to kind of like doubling down on health habits, and that led to me doubling down on other things. And now I can look back on it, be like, whoa, like it's like, like times 10 what I get back from it is what I've lost. But yeah, that only started to click for me in the second year. So that's why I think the first 1 or 2 or 3 months is really hard because it feels like you're giving so much and you're feeling so awkward when you have to go out with friends or you're having a dinner and you're not having your wine with your steak. And it's like, shit, like I'm losing so much. But you don't get into any of the positives for quite a while. So I don't even have to think about that. But it was much longer for me.
The uncommon life as well. This whole theory of your guys' podcast actually was like a solidifier for me. It was kind of that realization. If you want, like initially, it was that I'm not drinking. Just having a bit of time off. It wasn't until like 6 weeks I was like, I don't drink. That's it now. I just telling people I don't drink. And at first I was embarrassed, and then there was a point it switched, and it's partly around you guys and seeing like, you know what, if you want to be exceptional, you can't be.
Feels like a superpower, right? It exactly. Kind of does. Mm-hmm. That sounds like kind of almost like arrogant when you to somebody that like hasn't given up, but it does. Like I feel like the coolest thing is to not drink now.
I really hope it gets that way. As in the norm and the cool bit being not to go out and drink. And there's a lot more non-alcoholic drinks available now. So when you do go out, you got your 0% beers. And actually some of them taste all right. Like the Heineken 0% is actually quite tasty. It's like refreshing and gassy. There's
a fantastic one, Impossible Brew. They're an online startup over here. And they've got like vitamins and nootropics and GABA and stuff like that. Like, it's like stuff that gives you like a relaxation. It's good for you. It's quite
because some people do want that relaxant of it, and also, so that's why. So if I think, why do I have a glass of? So for me, I'm always on. So my personality is I've got obscene ADHD. I'm sure of it, And I don't stop. So I wake up at 5, whatever it is, I work and I do not stop all day. And then it gets to like the odd evening where I'm like, it's the only way I actually sit down and relax for 5 minutes outside of chasing kids and everything. So for me, it's a nice relaxant. And I think I'm in the space where I can moderate, so it's okay for me. But it is nice to have something to just like that 20-minute chill, just to give you that. So if there are some other options available out there, I think that's a good one to possibly share and look into.
Yeah. It's psychologically for me, and when it's hot and I want something bubbly and something cold and a beer, I still get the same kind of sensation. I think it's similar with the decaf coffee, right? You drink the coffee, Daniel, because you like the taste and the experience. It's not once you get over the that you're chasing that caffeine.
I drink coffee purely for the caffeine, just to keep me going. One thing I was going to ask then, in terms of like the social circles then, so when you do go out for dinner now and you're not drinking, and say there's a group of you, and how do you guys manage that then? Is it you just say, I don't drink? Have there been any awkward conversations, or does it pretty much just, in your mind, do you think the conversation is going to be worse than it actually is, and that people actually just like, oh, cool. How's it kind of planning out? I know you mentioned it, Baz, that a few of your like people are like, that's probably in the pub, right? If you're going watching a game or something, you're not drinking. But if you're going out for dinner with friends, how
people
does that plan out?
Eventually, it takes people a while. It takes them a while, but then they get it. It stops.
Yeah.
Right? An eventual point of a norm. It's the norm, right?
Yeah. Like there was this cool moment, like it was about 4 or 5 months ago, and we were playing cards. And usually, like early on, actually, that was a little bit difficult to go around and mates, play cards, stay till like 12 or 1 and not drink, because particularly as other people were getting more drunk around you. But there was this moment like 3 or 4 months ago where it was exactly the same card night. Everybody was drinking all sorts, wine, spirits, like cocktails were being made. And I remember my mate got up and was like, made a round of cocktails for the table, but just didn't make me one. It didn't even ask. Like, it was just like, no, like, it's just, that's what it is. Like, but so it just takes a little bit of a while to get there. Whereas like 12 to 18 months ago, there would have definitely been a conversation about it. Just have one, like, or like, you're still not drinking, that sort of stuff. But after a while, it's just like, it's boring to do that.
The only thing is like new people like you meet and they're like, oh, we should meet up, or we need to meet, we should go for a drink. That's an interesting one, because I'm always just like, yeah, man, I'd love to do it. Let's go for a meal, because I don't drink alcohol. And then they'll be
That's
like,
a great answer.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, I don't really drink either. But people feel like they need to say that. And that's the thing you need to do. So you can reframe it.
So let's go for a meal instead. So you romance your new friends. You're romancing your new friends to dinner.
No, usually business related.
So I just need to say, Daniel, did you clean up that night when everyone was getting hammered at poker? I really hope you won.
I don't think I did. No, I'm not very good at poker. So
mate, if you're the only sober one
and
there.
Actually, sometimes when you've got a bit of drink in you, you take more risks. And well, the drunkest person at the room did lose a lot of money. So there's that too.
Just remind me of our old poker games. There always used to be the whiskey bottles in there. It was just standard, wasn't it? We'd sit there, get the whiskey out. It's I
mean, that's an interesting one, isn't it? So that's an interesting one. I've got quite an extensive whiskey collection, and I mean, what do you do with it now? I'm never going to drink that.
Ship it to me. I'll have it. Send it to me. I'll have it. Give it to Mike. Yeah. Mike will drink it.
That also actually reminds me of one of my worst decisions for alcohol. Was I just thought it would be really cool to have a wine rack. This was like 10 years ago or something. And I'm like, so I looked at like my 5 or 6 or 7 best bottles of wine that I liked, and I ordered like 10 of each. And I've got this like 10 by 10 wine rack upstairs. I'm just like, it looks fucking cool to do that. Yeah. But then I went from drinking 1 to 2 bottles of wine a week to drinking 3 or 4. I'm like, this is not a good decision to have a stash.
It's funny how much of a default present alcohol is as well. Like I realised that people that I haven't seen, they're still just like Merry Christmas or clients. It's like there's alcohol.
Yeah.
And you bought me a really nice present, I think, for my 40th, or maybe even before that. It was a bottle of wine from my birthday, my birth year, an 81 really fine wine. But yeah, I got to a point where I was thinking about what presents to give people, and then the default is the alcohol, and I'm thinking in my head, it's like, that's not a present you give to someone you love. Now, I mean, it sounds bad, but that's how I feel about it now.
Oh, you've gone a whole nother level. I like
Yeah,
it.
it's gone a whole nother level.
I feel like you love me if you give me a bottle of wine. I don't
Yeah,
mind that.
I'll send it. Nice European red.
So what are you going to give instead?
How about something? So what's that is?
What are you going to give instead?
I mean, there's a million things, right? There's literally a million things. That's the thing. You just need a little bit more thought and imagination for that person.
Tie?
A nice necktie.
Belt.
Cufflinks. Block of cheese.
Cheese. Yeah, that's a good one. Daniel, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, we're how long are we in? Yeah, nearly an hour in. Why don't we try and end it on a bit of a practical note? So if somebody did want to think about either like significantly reducing or wanted to give up alcohol, I guess we'll push us to Barry, seeing as is the most recent. Like, what would you suggest to someone to think about? Like, if they were going to try, if they wanted to think about, like, now I'm going to do something now. Like, how would you suggest starting? What would be the next step?
I would say think about what you're gaining and not what you're losing. That's the main thing. Write down a list of things that you think you're going to lose. Write down what you think you're going to gain and go for it.
Nice. I think I would say, actually, weirdly, not overthink it, and like you, Barry, just take it one step at a time. And actually, with Christmas coming up, I think there's this. I was listening to this podcast the other day where they were saying a lot of people wait until the 1st of January to kind of give something up, and they kind of get it out of their system over Christmas. I actually would just do it. Oh my gosh! Like, your video went off, and now it's just come back on, and I've seen what's happening.
Love it. I'm gonna have to get you on more often. This is great.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man!
We're gonna have to wrap
be soon before like this gets more out of hand. Yeah, I would say basically, I'd say do it from now, do it from today, and just try 1 week, and then just try another week, and just see how it goes. And like Barry said, keep trying to kind of think about what you're gaining versus what you're losing, because I don't think it happens all at once. It happens in little bits, and you have to be self-aware of it. But yeah, and then I think like over time, you kind of realize actually what you're gaining is more than what you're losing. Things become different.
It is really difficult though. Because I think we've all probably tried tea. Because one of the answers would be, or the option would be, like, just try drinking just twice a week, and see how that goes. And that doesn't always work either. And or just limit it to, like you said, Daniel, like the 1 or 2 glasses, so it really is that. What are you going to gain from not doing it? And having a real hard look at yourself as well, and saying, is this causing more harm than good? Is it causing more harm to me and the people around me than good? And if it is, then to really kind of think about how you might want to approach it.
The nice quote, the nice thought that I stuck up on LinkedIn the other day was, it's a bit like, think about what is the best version of yourself. Like, if you want to be your best self, how does that look, and what does that include? And take away that everything, and it doesn't fit that. And it's the Michelangelo sculpture of David, and they asked him how he did it. Daniel knows the quote better than me, but he basically said that he took away everything that wasn't David. So he started with a block of marble and took away, and it's one of the most beautiful, famous statues. So I like that analogy. I think if you're thinking about quitting, just think, what does the best version of me look like, and does it include?
That's good.
Yeah, and one thing also that just kind of made me think about, like, when you try and kind of think about what the best version of you is, or what you're going to gain. The thing is, like, the hard thing about that is that you don't always know what you're going to gain. So if I now look back on the last 2.5 years, and like where I am now and what I'm able to do in terms of, because like even my whole journey with my health habits may never have happened. I didn't necessarily know that was going to happen. And the way that I'm now, like, meticulously tracking my food and eating better and training, I just don't think I would have been able to get to that level at all. But I wouldn't have thought that that's what I was going to gain. And actually, Barry, even if you think about the last 6 months, like what you're now doing with yoga and all of the other things, and your temperament and all of that stuff, I'm not sure you would have been able to sit down and write all of that out. Like, you you kind of almost like drift into a different life, of which some of it you can predict, but some of it is unpredictable and just like way better. So you just have to have a little bit of leap of faith as well, that like that's going to show up, and when it does, I just don't think there's any, you can't imagine going back. That's how it felt for me anyway.
Lovely, thank you, gents. It's
Good
been
one.
an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.
My first podcast appearance. Initially, I was like, it was a bit daunting, but actually, when you get on, it's just talking with friends.
It's just a
and
chat.
I really enjoyed it. It's lovely seeing you both. Lovely.
It's good to have you on.
Lovely seeing you. Thanks for sharing.
Shout out to Michael Dominguez and Christopher Plummer, number one fans of the show.
100%.
Cool. All right, nice one. Have a good sleep as usual, Lewis. Have a good day, Barry.
Cheers, mate.
Barry, do not hang up yet. I need to just do something quick.
Okay, sure.